Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rising. Saagar, what kind of show do we have today?
We have an amazing show for everybody today. We've got journalist Zed Jelani is going to join us a little bit to talk about Michael Bloomberg and Barack Obama. Some revealed comments about Bernie Sanders, very interesting. Michael Tracy, he's going to be joining the show as well to talk about impeachment, MSNBC, and Tulsi Gabbard. And we have a shocking new poll out of New Hampshire. I think everybody's going to stick around to keep that up. But meanwhile, some more impeachment developments in Washington.
Indeed. Yeah. So a judge has ruled that Don McGahn, who was central to the whole Mueller inquiry thing, does have to testify, even though the president was trying to block that. Now, look, what does that actually mean? Well, it on its face is, of course, a victory for Democrats. However, it will go to appeal, so this is not a settled issue yet. On the other hand, in my view, anything that continues this, that forces them to continue pushing down this path, that takes them more time, that encourages them to go back to the Mueller report and relitigate that, I personally think is a strategic disaster for them.
Yeah, it is a strategic disaster. I mean, nobody cared. The Mueller report fell flat on its face. Then the Mueller testimony fell even flatter. And now Don McGahn, by the way, in this thing, all it says is he has to testify. I was just talking to somebody right before this, and what it said is that he can still cite privilege whenever it comes to some of the questions. So he's just going to show up to testify and then cite executive privilege on questions that the White House doesn't want him to answer.
Right.
So it's just like, again, what are you like? Every cable show in this country has this thing splashed across. I was watching this morning. All of the panels.
How many news alerts did you get about this?
What does this mean? Parsing the language of this judge's decision. I mean, people do not care. I don't know how many times that we have to see this like Versailles level obsession. Like only elites care about this story. Truly, it really is. All the polling is moving against it. We looked at that yesterday with independents, and it's just over and over and over again we see the same story. The American public doesn't care. They don't think it rises to the occasion. They want to see this litigated in an election.
Well, and the longer that this drags out, the worse it is for those senators who are running for president, in particular the two senators who actually have a shot here, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. The longer this drags closer to the new year, the longer that the Senate trial could potentially drag out, which again, if you bring Mueller back into this, then that just expands the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, yesterday Matt Taibbi, when he was on the show, was talking about how Adam Schiff is saying they've uncovered all these new leads. I mean, you just get the sense that this is never going to end, much to the detriment of the entire party, but especially the progressives who need to be on the campaign trail, making the case about things that people actually are talking about. Healthcare, climate change, wages, unions, etc. So to your point about the polling, CNN new poll this morning, as compared to before the blockbuster bombshell impeachment inquiry testimony, zero change in terms of how people feel about impeachment.
I mean, I
nothing changed.
Everybody knew it wouldn't change, and actually, independents are beginning to move against it. I saw this poll come out yesterday. So once again, congratulations, everybody! You're wasting everybody's time, and you're dragging the country through nothing, while so many much more important things are happening.
And I do want to be fair, because I think a lot of the Democrats who are in favor of this, it comes from a very principled place. They want to, put this black mark on the president's record. They see his behavior as truly abhorrent. They want to hold him accountable. But you also have to be strategic. You shouldn't have waited so dang long if you were going to do this. And at this point, the mission number one has got to be, if you find him so abhorrent, to get him out of office. And what they are doing right now is counter to that interest.
Exactly.
At the same time, there's a story out of Virginia that I've been following closely. I live in Virginia, I'm from Virginia, et cetera. So I'm kind of plugged into some of this stuff. And as we all know, banner year in Virginia. The state is now completely blue. You've got a governor who's a Democrat. Now Democrats have taken control of both the House and the Senate for the first time in decades. It's pretty unbelievable. They did it very much on the strength of the rising suburban vote in Virginia. It's Northern Virginia, it's Hampton Roads, it's the Richmond suburbs. And so something I've been watching very carefully is Virginia has been a right-to-work state for a long time. And one of the issues that they had talked about in mounting this comeback to take back the state is being the first state to repeal right to work. This is a massive deal for workers in the state. It's a massive deal for unions and the labor movement in general. So first, I was troubled because they put out their list of priorities for the session, like the first bills that they're going to go after. Of course, repeal of right to work is nowhere to be found.
Right.
It's a lot of, it's like ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment, banning discrimination for LGBTQ to people with housing, all things that I support, important, good.
Yeah.
But nowhere do they talk about repealing right to work. Well, guess what? Surprise, surprise. Governor Northam, at a meeting of business leaders, said that he does not foresee any action on repealing right to work. And Saagar, why I think this is so important is because it perfectly illustrates the danger of centering your party around a professional managerial class that exists in the suburbs. You end up focusing on their issues and prioritizing their issues, and working people, again, get thrown under the bus and totally screwed.
And I think it's also very revealing of, well, people ask all the time, why do you guys spend so much time litigating inter-party debates, right? Like, why do we spend all this time doing intra-Democratic, inter-Republican? This is the same thing how I felt whenever the Republicans came in 2017, and all they could do was pass a tax cut. They couldn't pass anything on health care. They couldn't pass anything on immigration. They couldn't pass a single one of the president's major policy initiatives. All they could do was agree upon the one, corporate bottlenecked policy they've been wanting to pass for the last 25 years. I think you're going to discover exactly that when Democrats if they take power again in this country, and if they take power in these state houses. And the reason why is, all they have centered their campaign around, it's not even the suburbs, is we have to defeat Trump. We have to defeat Trump.
Right.
But now you're in office. Now you actually have to act. This is why we spend so much time here litigating what these people believe, what the campaigns about the fight for the soul of the party. Because when push comes to shove, and you actually have power, what you do is so important.
Right.
That's the most important thing of all. Well, and yet they dropped the ball for you, right? I mean, they dropped it. Yeah.
Exactly. And it also really illustrates the money in politics piece.
Of course.
Because unlimited corporate money has been legal in Virginia for forever. The leadership of the Democratic Party has been taking so much corporate money. They have zero interest in standing up against their corporate benefactors to benefit the working class. And so that's the other piece here. So what happens now? There's no way that without a massive pressure campaign, a grassroots organized pressure campaign, there is no way that right to work will be repealed in Virginia. So it also speaks to this theory of change. Yeah. If you ultimately want to get it done, people are going to have to march, they're going to have to show up at the Capitol, and they are going to have to force these legislators to do the job of what they campaigned on and make good on their promises.
It's the only way anything gets done.
All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.